Recently, I was a member to a debate with one of my former acquaintances during which I was accused of being a racist because I criticized the religion of Judaism. Now, a little context, this debate started based off of the assertion that this individual had made that anti-theism is a fascist ideology. Now, I personally am an anti-theist. I think that religion does more harm than good, and I can do another video just on that topic itself. When I asked them why it was racist to criticize the religion of Judaism, I was told that it is racist because every member of the Jewish faith is a member of the ethnic group Jewish, and therefore criticizing one, whether that be the ethnicity part or the religious part, is to criticize the other, and therefore either way it is necessarily racist. Now, this argument makes absolutely no sense because I, a member of the ethnic groups Italian, German, and English, can convert to the religion of Judaism. However, simply by the act of converting to the religion of Judaism does not mean I cease being part of those ethnic groups of Italian, German, and English. Moreover, it also doesn't mean that I become a member of the ethnic group Jewish. But how do we know this? Well, we know this because the definitions. An ethno-religious group is defined as a group of individuals who are part of the same ethnic group whose members are also unified by a common religion. Now, it helps to understand what an ethno-religious group is by contextualizing it with other examples. Some other popular examples of groups that would constitute an ethno-religious group are Sikhs, Jews, Amish, Mormons, Mennonites, Muslims, think Sunni Muslims or Shia Muslims, and Greeks. Now, while that is all well and good, there is still something to address within that definition of what an ethno-religious group is. And that is the fact that the definition includes two separate and more or less distinct concepts. After all, if we treat them as one and the same, one would be unable to criticize the cults of Mormons, the Amish, and the Orthodox or Hasidic Jews, as well as unable to criticize the ludicrous belief that God is a flesh and blood being that has a throne on the planet Kolob, or the belief that one should kill the apostates or adulterers as commanded by the Holy Book. The concepts that are separate and distinct that are included in the definition of an ethno-religious group are 1. The ethnic group, and 2. The religious group. Now, before we go any further, it is extremely imperative to note that while I say that these two concepts are separate and distinct, that is not to say that they are mutually exclusive. Of course they're not mutually exclusive. To claim that they are mutually exclusive, moreover to say that one necessarily implies the other, is an example of the speaker's ignorance. Now, in order to understand the difference between those two concepts, an ethnic group and a religious group, it is going to help immensely to discuss the definitions of those two. Now, for the sake of ease, let's start with religious group, which realistically needs no defining. It's a group of individuals who practice the same religion. You walk into a Catholic church, and assuming that every person there is Catholic, you can say that that is a religious group. You walk into a mosque, and assuming that everyone in that mosque is a Muslim, you can safely say that that is a religious group. That is just logical, and it intuitively makes sense. The more difficult one to define, however, is an ethnic group. An ethnic group is defined as a community or population made up of people who share a common cultural background or descent. This means that based purely off of the definitional meaning of the phrase ethnic group, one could be a member of that ethnic group by sharing either one or both of the following characteristics: either the descent that ethnic group shares, or the common cultural background that ethnic group shares. Descent in the context of ethnicity means the origin or background of a person in terms of family or nationality, in terms of ancestral heritage. This definition has absolutely nothing to do with belief systems, religions, or cultural practices. Thus, I would be willing to agree that, at least in most cases, criticizing one's descent is racist. However, criticizing one's culture is not and cannot be racist. Firstly, the definition of the phrase ethnic group makes a distinction between one's cultural background and one's descent. This distinction would not be included within the definition if the two words were meant to be synonymous with one another. After all, it is the culture of the Ku Klux Klan to believe white people are inherently superior to any other race simply because of the pigmentation of their skin. If it were racist to criticize a belief of a culture, and if something is racist, then we ought to abstain from doing it, then we could not criticize the belief or culture of the Ku Klux Klan, because we are capable of criticizing the abhorrent beliefs of the KKK without being racist. It can therefore be said that it is possible to criticize, make fun of, or even outright hate the belief system, culture, or religion of an ethno-religious group, so long as you're not criticizing, making fun of, or hating the individual themselves. Thus, it is possible to hate a belief that a person holds without hating the person holding that belief. I, for example, despise religious groups, including Catholicism. However, I don't hate the Pope. Moreover, you cannot hate the individual for an immutable characteristic such as their race, sex, or sexual orientation. However, it is also acceptable to hate a religion of an ethno-religious group so long as you are also not hating the individuals of that group for immutable characteristics that individual may or may not hold, such as their race, sex, or sexual orientation. Finally, if your culture, religion, or belief system encourages the excommunication or even murder of those who leave it, keeps children undereducated and ill-informed so as to keep them narrow-minded and unquestioning, an us versus them mentality, the rejection of scientific law, promotes intolerance, that homosexuals, adulterers, and apostates ought to be punished by death, a strict dress code, and abhorrent behavior such as female genital mutilation, it is your culture, your belief system, and your societal values that are the problem, not your descent or race. It has long been time to abandon your practices that are incompatible with 21st century society. It is time to abandon your archaic, draconian, illogical, and inhumane practices in favor of modern standards. It is incumbent upon skeptics, humanists, and logicians to call these barbaric practices for what they truly are without fear of being labeled a racist, because, as I have demonstrated, we are not. Thank you for the view. Please remember to like, subscribe, and to hit the bell icon so you get notifications when I post a new video. Please follow me on my social media to stay up to date. I will be linking everything down in the description below. I also stream live every Wednesday, Thursday, 7 to 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, and every Monday and Sunday from 11 to 3 Central Standard Time. So if that interests you and you want to come and hang out and talk to me and interact with me on a more fluid basis, then that would be amazing. I do try to respond to as many comments as I can, but if you come to my Twitch channel, which will also be in the description down below, you will be able to interact with me on a more fluid basis. Lastly, I'm Mike, the Evolved Logician, and until next time, stay logical, my friends.